So now let's talk about what the circular flow diagram is. Really what this is it just shows you how households and firms interact in both the goods and services market and the labor market, or the market for factors of production. So I'll walk you through what that is. So who is in the markets for goods and services? Well, there's going to be demanders and suppliers. So when we think about goods and services, right, food, clothing, transportation, who are demanding those things? Well, that would be us, right? So we're going to put us as the household sector. And then who are the suppliers of food, transportation, all those things? Well, those are going to be businesses or firms. Okay? So that's how the market of goods and services works, where we have a person demanding something and a person supplying it. Okay. Now the market for factors of production. Remember, factors of production. What are they? They are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So when we think about who are demanding land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, well, what are you doing with those things? You are producing goods and services, right? So you need to demand labor in order to produce a good, right? So who is actually demanding labor? Well, that's the businesses, right? Businesses are hiring labor in order to supply goods. So the demanders of the factors of production are going to be the firms. And then who supplies the factors of production? Well, think about labor. Who is supplying labor? That's us as people working. So guess what? The suppliers of the market for factors of production is the household sector. Let me show you full scale what is happening here. So let's start with us and what we do. All right. So what I like to do, I'll sit at home and think about, like, man, I really want a cup of coffee, or I need to go to the grocery store and get eggs before everybody buys them, things like that, right? So I am in my house and I need to go to the store, okay? So I'm going to go to the market. So a great example of a market for goods and services is just a grocery store. Okay. So what am I doing? I'm going to the grocery store, and what do I give the grocery store? I'm going to give them money, right? So in order to get something, right, going back to what we talked about with trading, I'm going to be trading my money for goods. So this little interaction here. So that money that I give to the grocery store, they are going to collect that, and that's going to go to the actual firm itself. When a firm collects money, that is going to be revenue. Revenue is just how much money you're making from selling a product. Okay, revenue is different from profit. Revenue is just like, hey, I made 20 T-shirts and I sold them for $10, so that's $200 total in terms of revenue. Now, if you were looking at profits, right? Obviously, the T-shirts weren't free, so you had to, pay the money to make the T-shirts, and then whatever's left over, that is how much money you get. So revenue is just the money you get from actually selling the product. What we're talking about now is what the firm is going to do with this revenue. Okay, so let's think about it from a grocery standpoint, right? They needed to get all of the product in there. They needed to have the shelving, right? So remember, shelving is used to hold the goods. So that would be classified as what? The shelving. It's not human, right? So it's capital. And then also we had the people that stocked it. If you go to the grocery store late at night, you always see people stocking the shelves. So that's the labor. And then you actually have the business owner. So there's the entrepreneur. Okay. So basically, what do? Well, we have to pay the labor. So we're going to give the labor wages. Wages is how much you get paid for working. Another thing that you might have to do is maybe you have to rent out a space, right? Maybe you have to rent the building that you're in, or maybe you have to rent the equipment that you're using to produce a good. And finally, what does the entrepreneur get? Well, the entrepreneur gets that profit. Okay, so here's the difference between the revenue and the profit, right? So profit is after you pay out the wages and the rent and all those other costs of business, okay? So let's look at this flow of money, right? It's going down, and then we get paid wages, rent, and profit. So what do you collect at the end of the year as a household? You're going to collect in income, okay? Now, what do you do with your income? You spend it, and around we go, right? So there is the circular flow going one way. But let's go the other way. Like, how did you get that money? Well, you got that money from your income, and you got it because you supplied resources. Okay, remember we said that the household are the suppliers of the factors of production. And what do the firms get? Remember, the firms are demanding these things. So the firm is going to buy land, renting the land. They're going to be buying labor with their wages. They're also going to be renting out the capital. And then also they have to give profits to the entrepreneur. So again, the firm are demanding these things. They're going to use these factory productions to actually produce goods and services. And then finally, we can actually sell those goods and services. So the firms are going to supply goods and services, and then that's why the households are giving them money in the first place. So this is how the circular flow works, right? Both ways, in the sense of that you are working for pay, and then you're using that pay to buy things, and the firms use that money to pay out the labor and all the other factors of production to produce goods. So around and around we go, both ways. This is happening every minute of every day. Okay. Now, what else is happening here? We are missing 2 or 3 other factors in the circular flow. Let's think about it. What do you do with your income? We said that you buy things. Okay, well, do you buy things with all of your income? Hopefully not. Hopefully you are putting some to the side. You're saving some of it, right? So something else we're missing is the banking sector, all right? So what do you give banks? You're giving them your savings. Okay, so let's think about banks for a second, okay? There are 2 real reasons of, or there's 2 real things that you're trying to do with a bank, right? You're either trying to deposit money, savings, or you're trying to withdraw money. So here we are depositing money into banks, and then we need to look at the withdrawal side. Now, from the other side of the bank, what they're trying to do is put more money out there. So what can businesses do at a bank? They could get investments. So a firm goes to a bank for a loan in order to produce more goods and services. So the other reason we have banks is for investments and loans. Okay, we're not talking about investments into like stocks and things like that. We're talking about going to a bank and getting a loan. Okay? Another thing you can do with your income is not for you, not for savings. What's that thing that you have to do with your income? You have to pay taxes, taxes, right? So that goes to the old government, abbreviated GOVT. All right. Now, you pay money into the government for taxes, right? Now, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. And the reason it's not necessarily a bad thing is because what does the government do with taxes? They spend it. So we have government spending as well. So governments will take in money and then spend it. The government is the largest not-for-profit. Okay, they actually spend more money than they get in taxes. Okay, so they are also a part of the circular flow because look, that money is going into the government and then it's coming out. Okay, so again, they are part of the circular flow as well. And there's one other thing that you can do. It's not just this circular flow that we're dealing with, because you can also buy from another one. Let's think about it here. You could either buy stuff in your city, or you can travel to a different city and buy things there, all right? Or you can buy things from a different country. What is that called? If you were to send your money out to a different country, what do you get in return? Well, that is goods coming in. So we're going to call those imports. Imports. Okay, and what you're doing is you're buying from a foreign country. Now, what can a foreign country do? A foreign country can send money to our circular flow. And what do we send back to them? That is going to be exports. The difference between imports and exports: for imports, goods are coming in, and for exports, goods are exiting. Okay. So here is a complete look at the circular flow with everything involved in it. So you going to the grocery store and buying things, you going to the banks for your savings or for loans, you having to pay money for the government and taxes, or you're buying things from foreign countries. This is a complete look of how the economy is ran. Very simple. Realistically, it's pretty simple. Okay? People like to make it more complicated than what it is, but that's really what it is, the circular flow. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is talk about the different economies. Basically, this thing we're looking at here, we have different ways of how we do this. Okay, so we'll get into that.